Hi everyone. So this is a sample blog that I was writing to convert my Medium blogs into a podcast. Not just a simple podcast, but an end-to-end AI podcast that I created using my Medium blogs. So this is just a quick tutorial of this Colab Notebook where I've written all the code for that. That includes multiple things. First is getting, getting blogs from my Medium profile so that I can create some context around my previous blogs. So it is not just a podcast generation; it is a context-aware podcast generation, and it is a multi-speaker. So that means you can have a number of speakers, no matter how many you want. Usually in podcast we have 2 to 3 speakers, right? So this is a complete tutorial for that. The tech stack that I have used here, it is LangChain, 11 Labs for AI audio, Gemini for LLM, to create script out of those podcasts, and then the LangDB as a vector tool for my context retrieval about my previous blog. By context retrieval, that means the model should know that yeah, I've written something on the same topic or on a similar topic previous earlier also. So it is important that it has some context about my previous blog. So I've created a vector database and stored everything in that. So that's how the whole process looks like. Obviously, the first step is installing all the necessary libraries. Note that I've used 11 labs and a company called as Smallest AI for that. So I've used AI models for from both of them. I tried Indian voices on Smallest AI and some models on 11 labs also. Here are some quick install commands for that. Then there are multiple helper functions that you can create. So under this section of helper function, you can see we have multiple functions that I have written here that I'll be using when creating this podcast. First, you can say is generate conversation function. This is basically an LLM calling function which takes the article, that means input from which you want to generate your podcast. It also take the podcast name. It also take number of speakers that you want to have in your podcast, along with their names, right? Not just the number of speakers, but the names. For example, your podcast should mention that hi Shresht, or maybe hi Arjun, or hi anyone. So something like that. So here's this generate conversation function. It has a detailed prompt. Then we have extract medium block from profile. So if you do not have a profile behind a paywall, it will scrape your feed by your profile URL and then creates a vector store of that. So it's easy, right? And if you have a content behind your paywall, it will track a limited information, not everything of your blog, just something that is there for the preview, right? So it does that. Then we have this function called a synthesize speech labs. Here we are passing this 11 labs URL, and then we are hitting an API request for that. I have saved my API key in the Colab Notebook itself. You can obviously when you build end-to-end product, you can secure it. So we have this function synthesize speech 11 labs, and then similarly we have synthesize speech smallest, in which we are using smallest AI models. So I'm using smallest AI models for Indian voices preferably. I pass both the text for which I want to generate my speech. Then I pass voice ID, that means the voice that I want to use, an index, then speaker name. So this for the correct mapping so that I can do that. And then finally, we also have this generate audio function that integrates both of the input functions. So what it basically does is, let's say if you have a multiple, if you have generated a script, so your script has multiple speakers and their corresponding content. So you go one by one to each speaker, line by line, and then generate audio for each of them, right? Then we have this extract keyword function that extract relevant information about my previous blog from vector store. And then we have the save conversation, which saves my audio files into an I think it's a JSON saving function. So I save my conversation. That means I save my script in a JSON file, right? And then we have this merge audio function that, as I mentioned, when we go line by line, it has generated multiple audios. So we need to merge them together to create a full end-to-end podcast. So a simple configuration, how to use this function is, first you'll need speakers list, that how many speakers you want in your podcast. It could be three, it could be four, anything, right? You just need to define where the names. Then for corresponding, speakers, for example, for Shrestha, I want a different voice. For Arjun, I want a different, and for Keith, I want a different voice. So for both of them, if I want to use 11 labs, I have to use 11 labs API and then corresponding voice ID from their portal. And if I want to use smallest, then I will choose smallest voice ID. So for depending on speaker, whether it is male or female, I can use that. Then obviously having API key. And that's it. Visit the first step is creating a vector store from your profile that you can do. And once you have your vector store and API key set up, all you need to do is paste your text block here or maybe URL or something. Extract relevant keywords from your current block so that you can search for same similar topic from your context. And then that's it. You just generate, use these whatever helper functions you created. You use those functions, you generate conversation, then you create multiple audios, and then you create the final version. Yes, that's how you build an AI podcast generator. So you build an AI podcast that has multiple speakers depending on your choice. You could have three, you could have four. Now you can also have multiple genders. That means you can have male voices, you can have female voices. You can integrate any LLM that you want. You can integrate any AI voice that you want. It is just a parameterized way. I think it helps when you go through this collab. I hope that it gives a quick overview of how to use this notebook to create your podcast and use these functions. See you in the next vlog. Thank you.